Hi there, this is Mr. Thornburrow, and this is the first tutorial in hopefully a series on Photoshop. We're just going to take a look at the interface with Photoshop, what it can do, and just the basic lasso functions. So let's just start things off. This is my dog Lily here, and she's going to be my test subject. I know that I have copyright permission in order to use her image. So let's start things off. Photoshop is the industry standard for any type of photo manipulation. There is some other software out there like Lightwave, which is more like a photographic style stuff, and it's great. But I think Photoshop is more for photo manipulation when it comes to graphic design and websites and overall just graphics. So the first thing that you need to know when working with Photoshop that it is really deals with pixels. If I zoom in, and I'm going to go to the magnifying tool here, and if I just draw a box around here, we can zoom in, and I'm going to keep on zooming. Let's zoom right in here, and you can see here that everything is made up of pixels. And if you think about pixels as just data, like words that you cut and paste, or letters that you cut and paste in Microsoft Word from one paragraph to another, then if you just think about it that way, then things get a lot easier. In this particular image, it's a quite high resolution. There's 5,000 pixels going this way and 3,400 pixels going this way. And when you put all those together, it makes a whole lot of pixels. So what I'll do is that let's zoom back out, and I'll just hit Control minus just to zoom out, or Control 0 to view the whole thing. And so let's just start cutting out Lily. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here, and this Lasso Tool, this guy right here, it gives me the ability to select stuff like you're selecting words in Microsoft Word, and you can copy and paste it, and you can also move it around. So what we just got to do is we got to do a good job. So let's go around, and I'm just going to start using this Lasso tool in order to start chopping her out. All right, and you got to just go along, and you got to be patient with it. Okay, and I realize I probably could have picked a better thing to crop out. Now, if I come along and I'm cropping out Lily, and boy, this hair, yeah, I really could have picked an easier subject to do. Say if I come along and I'm starting to run out of room, and because I've got my mouse held down, my button held down right now, and if I let go right now, what it's going to do is going to take those two endpoints, my start and my end of my Lasso tool, and it's going to join them like so. There, I just lifted up. And so now that's a problem, because if I want to add to this and I want to keep on selecting more of Lily, then I need to then what I need to do is hold down the Shift key. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and you'll see on the Lasso tool it's got a plus sign there. So if I hold down the Shift key and then continue on, then I can add some more. Okay. Now it's really important. If I were to let go right now, say if I'm here, and if I let go, it's going to be really problematic with my selection tool. I'll let go, and I'm doing a bad job on purpose here. I'm going to let go, and see what happened here is it selected part of the ground and part of her, and that's no good. I want to just select her. So you just got to make sure that when the two endpoints meet each other, so if I go along here and I keep continuing along there, when the two endpoints meet each other, we have to have her selected. So the best way to do is just kind of loop around, and then so now when the two endpoints join up, then we have her selected. Okay, so if I keep on going along with that idea, now say if I went along here again just to drive the point home, if I let go here, then well, that doesn't do me any good. I've seen students do a whole thing like this. We need to just make sure that we have a good chunk of her, and I'll take, like, say, the whole tail, and then and continue down here, and then I loop around, and then I have a good chunk of her. Now it's going to take me a little bit of time in order to do all of her. So what I've got is that I've got another document here that I've got all of her selected. I just kind of went all the way around. Okay. Now sometimes when you go all the way around, you're left with this hole, and if I were to copy and paste this or move it around, then Lily would have a big hole in front in the middle of her. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to use the Lasso Tool, and I'm just going to engulf this selection. Just go like here. Okay. And then just select it. Now, that's great. She's all selected now. In case you do too much by accident, like say that if I had like too much selected, like I had this out here, what you can also select is the Alt key, which is if I have the Lasso Tool selected and I hold down the Alt key, you see a minus beside the Lasso Tool. That's great for taking stuff away. So if I want to take away this part, which is too much, then I would just go along here. Okay, and then I just chop that off. Now that we've got her all selected, what do we do with her? Let's zoom back again here. I just Control minus, and now what we've got, we can copy this image. I'm going to go File, Edit and Copy. Edit and copy, and then actually I can paste her back down again. Let's go edit and paste, or Control V. And so what that did is that just made, over here you'll see there's this thing called the layer palette, and if you've got these little eyeballs here. What I just did is that I copied Lily and I pasted her back in its own individual layer. If I were to paste it again, then I just selected, now she's in another layer, and we can move her around. Now our selection is gone, but that's no big deal. We've already cut her out. And I can just use this move tool here, and I can just move her around. Now, if I select on this layer, that's the layer that has this image, and if I select on this one, then I can select this one, okay? And so now if we show the background layer, you'll see that there's 3 of her. And she can just go hop, 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 hop. Oh, she's underneath in front. Now it's also important to know that, see, we've got some layers here that are on top of each other. This layer is on top of this one, so that means that this version of her is on top of this version. If I were to reorder these, then I would put this layer in front of this layer. Well, guess what's going to happen? And she's in front of here. So I'm going to take this selection. I've already got her copied. If you've lost your selection, I can just use this rectangular selection tool, and I can just select her because I'm just selecting this portion right here. Going to go edit and copy, and then let's go somewhere. Let's go to another image of this surfer guy here. Now what we can do is I'm going to paste Lily into this image. We're going to go edit and paste, and you're going to see that she's quite huge, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to go paste. There we go, and she's massive, and the reason being is because we just took an image that was 5,000 pixels wide by 35 pixels deep, and it's trying to fit that into an image that's only 800 by 600 pixels. And because this is why I just got this picture off the internet, and a lot of stuff that you find off the internet is low resolution. So let's shrink Lily down, and we're gonna actually replace her on the on this surfer dude guy. So let's scale her down, and we do that by transforming. And so I go edit, and it's called free transform, and it's also Control T. Everything's got a key command. And you'll see if I zoom back, that's the size of her. So I'm going to shrink her down. Now if I shrink her down, if I shrink it down here, like you see, I can squish her, I can make her tall or whatever. If I were to hold down the Shift key, it keeps everything proportional, which is really important. Okay, and then obviously she's let's zoom in here. Obviously she's facing the wrong way. I'm going to right click and flip it horizontally. Okay, and then let's see here. I'm going to just try and match her up. I'm going to just keeping the shift key held down. Going to keep that proportional. All right, and then maybe if I hold my hold my mouse out here, you'll see that the mouse changes a little bit. That allows me to just angle her a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to put it like that. We'll go with that. Now if I hit, I can either double click or hit enter to activate my transformation. Now you see I want him gone and her there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start getting him out. Now you don't erase things in Photoshop. Like I can erase portions of her because there's nothing behind, and I would just delete that. However, the trouble is that I don't want to necessarily delete him. I want to have water there. And so if I were to delete him, well, there's not going to be any water in behind. So what I have to do is just give the illusion that I'm erasing him, and I'll explain. Let's get rid of my selection. Deselect there. If I were to have the background layer selected, and if I use this tool called the clone stamp tool or rubber stamp tool, if I click on that, what that shows me is that I can take data from here and put it from over here. So I hold down the Alt key from there, and then I can start taking data and moving it over here. Okay. I've taken people out of pictures. I've taken pimples off of people's faces. Like it works really well for that sort of thing. So all I'm going to do in this case is that I've got this layer selected. It's not affecting the dog. So I'm just going to take data from here, and I hold down the Alt key to take it from here, and then I'm just going to put it for over here. And I am not erasing anything. I'm covering him up with other data. So, and then this layer here of the dog is not being affected at all because I'm just working in this layer here. Okay, and so that's a nice, powerful thing to do. So holding down Alt. Now you got to really watch. You do run the risk of not making things look realistic, but you just gotta play with it lots. Like I'm taking data from different spots. It works really well if you have like a blank background, not like a water background. But you got to watch out for repeating patterns. Like I'm already starting to see, like there's a pattern here. It's already starting to show up here. You got to watch that you're not having repeating patterns. Like for example, if I had this and I was clone stamping it over here and I kept on cloning, you're going to get a repeating pattern. That's not looking too bad. That's looking a little fake here, but just for the sake of my tutorial here, I'm just going to keep things moving along. Okay, it's looking, I got it. So now I'm going to take out, let's see what else I got to take out. I'm going to take out his foot. So I'm just going to take part of this surfboard here, and then I'm going to just continue that line along to, there we go. And so let's zoom in on that a little bit. You can see you can see a little bit of repeating pattern here. How much do I have to do? Oh, I don't have to do that much. That's good. So what you might want to consider is that if you do have like a repeating pattern, like you see this little dot, 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 dot there, then you maybe, I'm just going to make this brush a little bit smaller. And then, oh, that's nice. I hope that's still working. All right, sorry if there was a glitch there. I did have a little bit of a technical issue. So what I'm just continuing to do is just kind of chop away at her. Now I realize it's not perfect. Let's make that brush a little bit smaller now so I can be a little bit more detailed. All right. I realize that it's not perfect because, frankly, it is a dog on a surfboard, which doesn't happen in my world. But here we are. There she is, and she's coming out. Now we can do other things in order to make her look a little bit more realistic. Like the guy here underneath, he had like a really hard edge to him, and he was a lot more yellow. There are little fine tune-up things that I can do. Like for example, I'm going to go into my image, adjustments, and levels. And what this is my color level. This is the amount of shadow in the dog layer, and this is the amount of highlights, and these are my mid-tones. I can take my mid-tones and bring them down, make it kind of darker, or I can make my shadows starker, or I can make my highlights more highlighty. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring down in my shadows a bit, and then make my mid-tones a little harsher. And so it does. I hit OK. It is maybe starting to match a little bit more the lighting of what was there. He's a lot more yellowy. One that we can maybe do, and I'm not necessarily don't know if I'm gonna like it or not. There's a few things you can do. You can go into hue saturation to adjust your color. And if you just need to do a real minor touch-up, like I can just colorize her a little bit this way, just adjusting my hue. Or what might also be an easy one to use is color balance. And this one I can take my mid-tones, and he was a little more yellowy, and so I can maybe just add a little bit more yellow that way. I'm not sure if I'm going to like this. I think I kind of like the way it was. Or I can adjust my shadows and make them, you can see if I'll go too far, make it look way red. But you can just hint it one way or another. I don't know, but I'm going to do it anyways just because. Now you could have a little bit of fun and just like go crazy with it and just make her look kind of abstract, but we don't want to do that at this point. So I did add a little bit of a yellow tinge to it. I don't want to go too far because I still want to make it look appealing. So that is the basics of where we're at today. That is the basics of using the Lasso tool. If you get anything out of today, I want you to think about just using the Lasso tool in order to make a selection. Hold down the Shift key in order to add to that selection. Hold down the Alt key to take away from that selection. And then you can copy and paste this data into something else. Okay? Good luck.